Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Michael Robbins here in the Temple of Silence. And I noticed that in these pictures, there's a bright sun behind me. It's just the sun, don't worry. We are beginning with Rays and the Initiations webinar commentary number 66. We've been speaking about the Atlantean consciousness led eventually by those upon the highly intelligent third ray and the Aryan consciousness to be led by the developing second ray of love wisdom. We've discussed the idea that each one of these leading rays was outside the ray line that was predominating at the time. The 4-6 line was predominating in Atlantis, leading to the 3, which is on the hard line. The 3-5 line is predominating in Aryan times and leads to the second ray of love wisdom. It tells us the cross is strictly an Aryan symbol, that the symbol of old Atlantis was a line indicating the vertical line of mental unfoldment and aspiration. Elsewhere, he tells us that the Ta, or the Tao, however we want to pronounce that, which is the flat horizontal line with a partial cross, a partial vertical, was the symbol of the Atlantean consciousness. It began to extend further into the spirit world, and then that means something a little bit different from the way he's describing it here. In any case, in the Aryan consciousness, we are supposed to lead both the vertical and the horizontal life, and certainly in the West, which is at the moment known for its powerful third and fifth ray, the second ray of love wisdom has to develop, and in fact the rays of the Occident are the second and the fourth rays. There's a strong third ray in the Orient, and maybe that is related to a vestige of the fourth root rays where that ray was strongly developed. Similarly, the third ray always develops or unfolds before the second ray does, and when we're talking about the transfer of the rays of the individual human being to the first, second, or third, because they're always born taking their early incarnations on 4, 5, 6, or 7, either in terms of the soul or the personality, then we're saying that the third ray will develop first. The opportunity to be a third ray personality or a third ray soul will develop before the opportunity to be a first or second ray personality or soul. These are some of the aspects of the ray science which we should keep in mind. Now we're beginning here with number 66. So we've discussed the Atlantean root race, the Aryan root race, and their sort of developmental trajectory in terms of the rays. And now DK tells us in the coming race, which lies still far ahead and of which only initiates of degrees higher than the fifth are the expression. And that's interesting because he's telling us that the Chohans are the expression. Now, as I have been doing this, I might as well continue. I haven't been in a position to be able to find someone to assist in the transporting of the old abbreviation files into this particular computer, so please bear with me. So in the coming race, and that is the let's see, how would we put this? X, we'll put it like this, XXRR. And you know what that's going to mean, I'm sure. It's the sixth root race. Okay, and while we're at it, we might as well do these. And this is the fourth root race. And, naturally enough, we want the fifth root race in there. Oh, FFRR. So this will be the fifth root race. Fifth. And I think we better have the third root race. Okay. Maybe we'll take care of the seventh later. So anyway, in this, it's interesting that only Chohans are the expression of what lies ahead in the coming race, because obviously there will be ordinary people in that race, and it will begin relatively shortly. We're still working now on the sixth subrace of the fifth root race, and probably will all during the times of the Aquarian age. Now, at the beginning of the age of Capricorn, perhaps we will begin our work in the sixth root race, the incipient sixth root race. But that remains to be seen. It will last, amazingly so, 10 million years. It's almost as if the early root races lasted a very long time. Let's talk about the ones in which man could become a self-conscious being, not the previous ones. I think read Philip Lindsay's Hidden History of Humanity for some speculations there on the duration of those first two non-self-conscious root races. But anyway, Lemuria was longer than Atlantis, Atlantis longer than the Aryan root race, which is not finally elapsed, but is coming close. And then the sixth root race will be longer than the Aryan root race, and maybe, if the trend continues, dipping towards the fifth root race and rising again, then the seventh root race will be still longer than the sixth. But let us see if we can find some confirmation on that. Okay, so he says it lies far ahead, and of which only initiates of degrees higher than the fifth are the expression. The ray of aspect which embodies the will of God will gradually become dominant, and this is the first ray. Its symbol cannot be revealed, so here he's telling us we do not yet have a symbol for the, well, let's see, it's, I suppose, sixth root race, and something of the first ray. There will then come a blending of divine will energy with the developed and manifesting energies of intelligence and love. So I wonder if we can, I want to try something here, just to see if very quickly it might be possible to capture something that is said, sixth root race, beginning, root race, and start. Doesn't seem to be anything. Beginning. Well, wait a second. I guess not. So we're sixth root race. Let's see what it might tell us here. Volcanic episodes and things of that nature. By the time the sixth root race, and this is during the next 1,000 years. So let's see what else we have here. So control. Okay. Control. Fine. No, it's not coming down. This should be, okay, just a moment. Yes, well, here is something of interest. Cataclysms of a worldwide nature will occur during the next 1,000 years. Continents will be shaken, lands will be raised and submerged, culminating in the profound material disaster which will overtake the world towards the close of the fourth branch race of the sixth subrace. We're already entering that. This will usher in the infant sixth root race. So we're, well, it may be far ahead in one sense, but we're almost there in another sense. 1,000 years, something of that nature. Let's see if we see anything further here. Okay. Well, at least that gives us some kind of idea. And this is a treatise on the 7 Rays, Volume 4, Esoteric Healing. The embryo of the 6th root race, he's talking about the racial angle here. I think we have to have simply a compilation on the 6th root race and 6th subrace, and we'll go over that. That will help us. Now it says thousands of years until the 6th root race had come into being. So we're talking about, let's see, will we deal with this shortly? The path to Sirius, the rays and the initiations, I think we may have, we may have already dealt with it. All right, well, that gives us an idea. It is imminent, and the next thousands of years will somewhat see the incipience of this 6th root race, and then will come some kind of blending and fusion and the use of the Buddhic energy. All right. Sorry for that little delay there, but sometimes one goes hunting, and has to find what one has to find with persistence. Okay, there will then come a blending of the divine will with the developed and manifesting energies of intelligence and love. So it is not premature that we are studying the nature of the will, the spiritual will, eventually the divine will. These developments are imminent as in terms of the racial future. In the final race, lying untold ages ahead. Well, how many millions of years, right? If the 6th root race has the duration of 10 million years, there will appear a creative synthesis of all these 3 rays of aspect. Let's just say, considering that, that the 6th root race will last about 10 million years, and make an analogy to the 7th solar system, which will not occur in sequence. That's the mystery. After the 6th. But will somehow synthesize the 3 major solar systems. Let's see, how should we do that? So solar systems, that's solar system, and let's try 3 solar systems. Then all souls will be on one of these 3 rays, and all personalities on one of the 4 rays of attribute. Now, this synthetic moment, let's see if I can get this here. This synthetic moment in the seventh root race. Let's see. Oh, yeah, okay. SV, seventh root race, and I thought we had that already. SVRR. Aha. Seventh ray. And this is the seventh root race. This synthetic moment in the seventh root race will be the exact opposite to how the rays were configured when individualization began. Only the rays of attribute. There will then be a perfect expression through humanity, the third divine planetary center of the livingness, the quality, and the creative potency of all the rays, because the rays of attribute are not neglected, but can be utilized in the service of the rays of aspect. Okay. So this is very interesting. We begin then with all personalities, all souls on the first four rays when individualization occurred. And you kind of wonder, when individualization occurred on the moon chain, was this also the case? Because then the moon chain egos did move as partially developed egos to the fourth chain and to the fourth globe and into our life here on Earth. A question. I just put the question up, not necessarily being able to answer it. Was individualization on the moon chain? Okay, this is the MNC, and we'll call this the moon chain. An instance of only of the use of only the first four rays, the rays of attribute. If so, when moon chain egos came into the fourth chain, and I think FRC, and we'll call that the fourth chain, were they still only souls and personalities on the rays of attribute, or had they worked themselves up into the rays of aspect? And that's an interesting question. I don't know that he answers that any place, but it would show that the rays of aspect were being applied, or were at least manifesting through humanity at an earlier time than the waiting until the middle of the Atlantean period when the third ray began to emerge. I mean, just how far could we go? On the moon chain, in terms of ray development, we learned that the Buddha was ready for the third initiation on the moon chain, but could not take it because at that time it was not offered. Now, was he? It seems that he was on the fourth ray. Okay, FRR. Aha. All right, let's get that straightened out. That's the fourth ray. It seems that he was on the fourth ray on the moon chain when that initiation could be taken, because later at Atlantis, he took the third initiation on the fourth ray. Well, is he an example of not being able to move yet beyond the fourth ray when on the moon chain? Because the fourth ray, we are told, can be transformed into the third or the second. Eventually, the Buddha, at some point, just as did the Christ, transformed or elevated the fourth ray soul into the second ray. When that happened, we're not given, but it certainly had to have happened before either one of them became the bodhisattva or the head of the spiritual hierarchy. Now, we can maybe assume that the Buddha became the head of the spiritual hierarchy perhaps in 5,500 BC, approximately, because he did not have a double term of office the way the Christ did. And the Christ, as Lord Maitreya, became the head of the hierarchy in 500, and in 3,000 approximately BC, at the death of Krishna. No. He became the head of the hierarchy at 500 AD. Oh, excuse my confusion. 500 BC. Then, of course, it was the Buddha that would have become the head of the hierarchy at the death of Krishna. Okay, I hope that's straightened out. It's easier than trying to erase all this. You see how mistakes happen, but I hope to correct them when they do. If the Buddha had had a double term, like the Christ, then it would have been 5,500 BC, but then some other high soul must have been the head of the hierarchy at that time. The Christ's duration as head of the spiritual hierarchy began in 500 BC and will last till, if we can imagine it, 4,500 approximately AD. And of course, it all depends when the Christ and the Buddha will finish their seventh initiation. Well, these are interesting ideas about our leaders, but maybe they don't help us so much in terms of really developing the capacity to go forward on the spiritual path, which has a lot to do with working upon oneself and achieving certain abilities. So anyway, the Tibetan is saying, relative to these facts of the seventh root race, and that seventh root race we're probably talking about in our particular round, which is interesting. We're still here very much on the fourth chain, fourth round. So that's more than 10 million years ahead. Could be 20 million years ahead when this is all completed, maybe more. The cycles are not given to us, and we can speculate, but until we can confirm, our speculations remain simply speculations. These are the facts of this synthesis of the first, second, and third ray in the seventh root race that I would have you bear in mind as we consider the relation of the seven rays to initiation in this particular world period and during the cycle of treading the path of discipleship and initiation. So, things are under the law of mutation constantly, and everything is changing position and relationship, but at least for the time being and in a practical sense, DK can tell us how the seven rays do relate to initiation. One example of the law of mutation is that when a precessional age of, let us say, 2160 years comes along, 2000 year period, 2500 year period, 2160 year period, more exact, of, let us say, the age of Pisces, age of Aquarius, we begin to get the feeling that, Aquarius will, an Aquarian age of that type will always be accompanied by a similar duration of the seventh ray. A Piscean age of that type will always be accompanied by a similar duration of the sixth ray, but it isn't necessarily so. We could have an Aquarian age accompanied by any one of the seven rays, or we could have a Piscean age in another great cycle, a great Platonic year, which was any one of the, accompanied by any one of the rays. So all of this points to a very, very intricate science of cycles, which perhaps will be somewhat ours when we come to the development of that siddhi on the third subplane of the atmic plane called all knowledge. Well, it can't ever be all knowledge, but it can be certainly all knowledge as it pertains to our globe, or maybe to our chain, certainly to our globe. Okay, so these are facts which I would have you bear in mind as we consider the relation of the seven rays to initiation in this particular world period. Now, what is a world period? There's some degree of ambiguity about what a world period is, but let's call it, for practical purposes, let's consider a world period a round, and FPP, and that's going to be one of those useful ones for practical purposes. Okay, a round. And during the cycle of treading the path of discipleship and initiation, okay, great transitions are then made. The power to include and to love in the truly esoteric sense automatically produces changes and a basic refocusing in the life of the accepted disciple and of the initiate. So, DK is really speaking of accepted disciples. ACDS, and that looks like a good way to do it. ACD, accepted disciple, ACDS, accepted disciples. That's when the real discipleship begins, and that can occur, well, let's say usually somewhere between the first and second initiation, maybe more or less at the halfway point or beyond. So during these synthetic periods, when we are subsuming under the divine will both love and intelligence, great changes can occur. These changes, transitions, and reactions are brought about by the action of the ray potencies during the period of initiation. So let's see, the seven rays are great agents of change in human life. The initiate then enters into relationship with rays which are conditioning him at that time, and later all the rays are at his disposal, and he is not limited by any one, but even great beings such as the Solar Logos have predominant rays. Okay, so the initiate then enters into the relationship with rays which are conditioning him at the time, and we may remember that I went to page 340 and of rays and initiations, and there the list of the initiations and which rays conditioned which initiations are given. So refer to that list if you don't know the correlation. They affect, now we're talking about the initiate, they affect his soul-infused personality and also the ashram with which he is affiliated. In other words, I suppose when there is a moving up in the ashram, because a member of the ashram has been initiated, I-N-I-D, now that's going to be initiated, okay, initiated, then the whole ashram benefits. Then the whole ashram experiences an increase of ray potency along the line of the ray, which affected the up-moving member. The quality and potency of an ashram is definitely affected by the admission of an initiate. He brings into it not only his own potency and ray qualities as a soul, but also the energy of the rays which produce the changes and which conditioned him during the initiatory process just undergone. Okay, well, I've just said what DK said. He said it better, but that's the idea. When you join an ashram or move into an ashram, the quality of your rays will affect the ashram and the quality of what you are undergoing initiatorily from the ray perspective. So it's, let's just say, your own rays and the rays of the initiation through which you are passing affect the ashram. He then moves into a new stage of conscious contact with the ashram, with that inner group of workers working at a particular point of tension and with a particular aspect of the divine plan as its responsibility, working at a particular potency under the guidance of a particular master who operates as the monadic center of that ashram. This is a change of reference. I don't know what we usually refer to as our group, maybe some external group, it could be a good one on the physical plane, but eventually the ashram becomes our place of recourse when we think of our group affiliation. So he then moves into a new stage of conscious contact with the ashram as an initiate. This new state of perceptive spirituality. Okay, that's a good term because let's just say when we grow, this is how we notice we grow. Perceptive spirituality permits, this new stage of perceptive spirituality permits the initiate to enter into relation with all those who have undergone a similar initiation in the initiate's ashram. He therefore becomes increasingly a constructive and creative agent in the ashram, and we can say, you know, he is fortified by the fellowship of initiates of similar degree to his own, and inspired by those of higher degree, including the master. Okay. Right. It is this which necessitates his careful preparation, which must be paralleled by a demonstration of his understanding of the initiatory process upon the outer plane of activity in service. So let's just say that this is not something, this new status and relationship is not something into which one can rush. Okay. Careful preparation, maybe in the fraternal orders that we find today. Well, I remember in the early type of Masonry, there was no way you could really prepare for taking a degree, although I think that has been rectified by some of the attempts now to transform Masonry into something more spiritual and esoteric. Preparation for the forthcoming degree is offered. A certain mastery of what is offered in the preceding degree must be achieved if there is to be a moving forward into the next degree. And that mastery of the work, the labor of the preceding degree is a kind of preparation for the next degree. In other words, suppose we've taken the second degree and we have to become accustomed to the expression of the energies which are related to that second degree. There has to be spiritual intelligence and the illumined mind and all that. And it prepares you for what you will encounter when taking the third degree. And then there's further preparation after the third degree to prepare for the fourth. The intuitive life is stimulated, and at the fourth degree really confirmed, because the fourth ray is active at the fourth degree, and the Buddhic plane becomes not just an energy which can be received, but it becomes the stage of habitual focus, or the state of habitual focus. He cannot be permitted to enter the life of the ashram and become the recipient of exceedingly active energies until he has proved that these energies will not be occultly retained by him, but will become the strength and potency of his service among men. Well, this is another way. It's another way of saying, no selfish retention of energies is permitted in the ashram. Of course, that doesn't mean that you liberally and thoughtlessly distribute the new energies in inappropriate ways. So you may have to, show a degree of discretion and not share what you know, because under certain circumstances, because it would not be goal fit to do so. It would not assist anyone. It would only upset the balance in the unready recipient. But anyway, a certain degree of selflessness must be shown here, because the energies of the ashram have to be rightly distributed. So selflessness must be shown to guarantee the right distribution of the energies received in the ashram. So selfishness will never win the day, and similarly, the one who seeks initiation for his little self alone simply approaches a figment of the real door of initiation, as we have learned in the esoteric catechism, until he is proved. So in the preparatory stages to the initiation, in the preppy, let me do that one, preparatory stages to initiation, to the next initiation, he has to demonstrate the giving aspect of service, wisely given, however, wisely, because simply to dump energies on somebody who's not ready for them is not a wise use of energy, and it can only do harm. We are entering now upon a somewhat close analysis of the energies of the 7 rays and their effect upon the initiatory process which face the disciple. This is why it's called, this book, The Rays and the Initiations, right? Let's see, whoa. That's not what I want. Where was I? Okay. I want a bracket, right? Okay. Let's just say this has been somewhat and discussed in previous of his books. But here the concentration is extreme and at a very high level. It's intense. But we will gather what he has said elsewhere, and really, you know, as DK said, study topically, because it's only when you really bring these statements together in a topical fashion that you can get the kind of overview that we need. So I'm going to try to offer in these commentaries some topical study on some of the major compilations. I think the compilation on Shambhala, it's probably not, I don't know, let's see if it's likely, has more than 700 references. And the one on initiation, or the ones on initiation, once you put them all together, we'd have to consult Robert Burrell's mammoth compilation on the initiations. I don't think in a lifetime one would ever be able to comment on such a thing, so we'll see what the scope of limitations may be. We are now entering upon a somewhat close analysis of the energies of the 7 rays and their effect upon the initiatory process which face the disciple. Every initiate enters upon the period of initiatory process possessed of certain definite energy equipment. Okay, well, we take ourselves as we find ourselves, and according to our equipment and its degree of development and refinement, so will be our readiness for the next step. His personality is expressing itself within the periphery of the 3 worlds through clearly defined ray forms and relationships. So from the fourth subplane, SP, okay, SPP. Okay, well, I think there's one we should have. So subplane. From the 4th subplane of the mental plane. So maybe that is what is considered to be the ring past knot of the lower 3 worlds. He is a personality through the integration of his mind, his emotional nature, and his physical body, the energy of the latter phenomenal factor being focused in the physical brain. So this all is defining the nature of the one who, as a personality, can take initiation. He is a personality. So, in other words, this is key. You know, without integration, there is no real personality and no ability to take initiation. So integration is a great, prominent, necessary factor. And in many ways, it occurs during the development of the 5th petal of the egoic lotus under the sign Leo, as if we start with the very first petal, the outer knowledge petal, knowledge petal, we reach the central petal of the 9 in the sign Leo. Okay. All of these are composed and conditioned by the energy units of which they are constituted, and all of them focus their intention through the medium of the physical brain, thus enabling the personality to be a self-directed entity upon the physical plane. So this is interesting. Mind, emotional nature, physical body, all focus through the physical brain, all of them. All of these are composed of energy units. Now, are these atoms, or are these Davic lives, atoms, or other kinds of Davic lives of which they are constituted? And all of them focus their intention, their direction, through the medium of the physical brain. So let's just say all the elements of the personality are focusing, of the integrated personality, right, are focusing through the physical brain, physical body, physical brain. That's physical body, and BR would be physical brain. So needing that, let's put it in. And there's also the etheric brain, and that is the center of so much occult focus in the magical process. Okay, physical brain. And all of them entity, let's see, making him a self-directed entity upon the physical plane. Okay, and we'll get rid of this other. All right, so the personality is created. It's interesting that we talk of the of the personality being on the 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th rays in the early days of evolution, before personality as here defined can possibly appear. So that is something to keep in mind. You know, those first few incarnations, even how many will there be, cannot possibly produce a personality in the sense here defined. So we're going to call this INTG, and we're going to call this interesting. Interesting. Okay. Right. Okay. To this personality, a 5th major energy must be added, the energy of the soul. Well, this is our whole preliminary work, isn't it? You know, even before we're building the Antakarana, it's that alignment with the mental unit and the personality found on the 4th subplane of the mental plane with the 3rd subplane of the mental plane, and even the 2nd, which has to be achieved. So this is the usual personality soul alignment at which we work preliminarily when we're working with occultism. To this personality, a 5th major energy must be added, the energy of the soul. Each of these personality expressions is composed and governed by one of the ray energies. You know, mind, body, emotions, etc. So that a great and dynamic synthesis is present, which, at the time when the initiatory process is begun, it is in reality a composite of 5 energies. He seems to be hinting that there is a soul infusion, okay, soul in fusion. Okay. SL, we'll call it SLNF, and soul in fusion. SLN. We'll say SLINF. Let's do that. That's even clearer. And we'll call this SLINF. Now, why can't we get that? And hopefully we will. Right. Oh, well, I have that. So I don't need it. SLINF, soul infusion. That there is soul infusion occurring at the beginning of the initiatory process. Presumably, some degree of it when one is ready to take the first initiation, and the initiate is initiate before he is initiated. That's the key. Okay. Now, let's see what else. What is present? A great dynamic synthesis is present when the initiatory process is begun. And it's a composite of 5 energies, and he will briefly describe them here. All right, what? The energy of the soul, in itself a threefold energy. And what are the threefold aspects of the soul? The jewel, okay, yes, it's that usual thing where I'm missing the bracket. Sorry for the mechanics, but if there was another way for me to do this, I would, but there isn't at the moment. So the jewel in the lotus, the energy of the petals, and the atomic triangle of the mental unit, astral permanent atom, and the physical permanent atom. So the APA is the astral permanent atom, and the PPA is the physical permanent atom. Okay, physical. Right, all that is present. Those are the 3. All right, and that's called the atomic triangle. That's one way of looking at it. The energies of the personality, which is of such a potency, being a fusion of 3-ray energies, that it has evoked a ray which dominates the personality and is called the personality ray. And here's the question: is the personality ray present before this evocation occurs, or only when there is sufficient integration to be powerful enough to evoke a ray, which we call the personality ray? Okay. The energies of the personality, which is of such a potency, being a fusion of three-ray energies. So fusion brings potency. This is what is being said here. That it has evoked a ray which dominates the personality and is called the personality ray. Now, that's the mystery. Does that appear early in the game or only much later? All right. So there is the energy composing the mental vehicle, the energy which demonstrates as the emotional nature, and the energy of the physical body focused on the physical plane and conditioning the brain. Probably we should not leave out the etheric body. But sometimes he has a reason for excluding the etheric body, and he considers it of an entirely different order. Yet it is physical, and it is part of the larger thing we call the physical body. Okay, so this is the fusion. There is the fusion of these three energies, including the etheric body. The etheric body and the physical body are really one thing. All this information is elementary. He's given it to us repeatedly, but I repeat it for the sake of clarity and in order that we may know what it is we are considering, because in occultism it's so easy, for us to get confused. In the case of the accepted disciple who is in preparation for initiation, and maybe we can say that all accepted disciples are in prep for initiation. The term applies to this system of integrated energies is the soul infused personality. Maybe we might say maybe only a significant degree of infusion occurs after the first initiation. The fusion is necessarily not complete, really not until the dawning of the fourth initiation, but enough soul energy is present to guarantee that minimum of soul control which will make the initiatory process effective. So without a sufficient degree of soul infusion, there can be no initiation, and there will be no soul control sufficient to make initiation successful. That's the problem. So always we must call upon the soul. It cannot remain a name only. Okay, and going on a bit more here, it might also be said that this system of integrated energies is, through the initiatory process, confronted with still higher fusions, because initiation is a process whereby successive integrations, attended by consequent expansions of consciousness, become possible. So let's get that definition down. And whoop, that's not what I want. Okay. Yes, here's that good definition. Initiation is a process whereby successive integrations attended by consequent expansions of consciousness become possible. These are, in their broader significance, 7, though entailing many minor points of integration as follows. Now, I think this is a very important section, and it's all about the fusions which occur on the path of initiation. So I think rather than to dive into that, since we are just about at the 1 hour point, though I am tempted to go on, we will say that this is the end of Rays and Initiation Webinar Commentary number 66. Page, obviously, we're at 560, end of 563. And where did we begin? That's something always to remember. 561, 563. Okay. And we will go down to where we let off. Okay. And that was here. So this is page 561 to 563, and we will begin Raise and Initiate webinar commentary number 67. And at page 563. Well, we are in the middle of talking about the fusions which occur. So we'll take it up from there. Fusions on the path of initiation. We're talking about basically the integration of 5 energies. And I'm going to make this so big that we cannot forget what we're talking about, because initiation is constantly a process of increasing integration, accompanied by of higher and higher factors, along with the factors which preceded them, and the accompanying expansions of consciousness. All right, friends, I think that will do it, and we'll get on to number 67 as soon as that becomes possible. Thank you for attending, and we'll see you in a little bit. Bye-bye.